almost too late.
Our members are not measuring their survivability in terms of weeks. They're doing it in terms of days now.
The National Federation of Independent Business has been pushing the federal government to help those shut out in the first round of funding.
Over 80% of small businesses in this state have yet to receive cash or even know where their loan is. Let those companies who have already filed, they should be first come, first served now and not have to restart that.
The federal government has boosted and sent out monthly benefits for many Americans, and this monthly benefit increase is going to be worth up to $100. And several states have also released how much the residents can expect to receive from SNAP, so make sure to watch until the end to learn how to receive the next stimulus check that's going to be sent out soon. Food stamp recipients are finally receiving a boost in benefits, and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program increased monthly allotments by 12.5%, everybody. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, the federal agency that oversees the program, said the increase would due to soaring inflation that's taken a toll on grocery budgets. And the boost, that is, for 41 million recipients, is the largest percentage in over 50 years. It comes as 34 states continue to pay the crisis assistance to SNAP recipients, equaling a minimum pay of actually $95 a month, which could actually help so many people. The average benefits per household also per month is $130 in certain states. That's more than $725,000 of the state's 15% SNAP benefits. So SNAP benefits have also been very crucial for many New Yorkers' livelihoods, including approximately 14% of the state's population last year. According to the New York State Office of Temporary Disability and Assistance, more than 1 million households, including more than 3 million New Yorkers, that the state were enrolled in SNAP in July 2022. 45,000 residents may also now be eligible for food assistance under a state change to SNAP went into effect recently. The update, which Governor Lamont announced, increases the maximum monthly gross income for Connecticut SNAP recipients from 185% to 200% of the federal poverty level. Monthly SNAP benefits will also increase by an average of $12.12%, which accounts for yearly growth, everybody, in the price of food. But some advocates are saying that emergency food service providers applauded these changes but worried that they would not fully address the needs of Connecticut residents. And that's very true. People in Massachusetts who participate in SNAP will also see an increase to the benefits in response to the rise of cost of living. The governor actually announced in a news release that the benefits will increase 12% as SNAP amounts are adjusted to the current cost of living. Households will see an average increase of $25 to $30 a month, and there are around 500,000 households in the Bay State that get announced and get SNAP benefits. Additionally, Massachusetts got approval from the federal government to adjust the heating cost used to calculate benefit amounts because of the regional rise in price utilities. And there are some Americans that have lowered tax bills when they filed for 2023 after the IRS adjusted tax brackets and increased deductions to counter the soaring price tags in groceries and other staples. The IRS said in a statement this week that tax brackets will increase by about 7%. In an attempt to counter rapid inflation, those updated brackets can mean that Americans whose wages haven't kept pace with inflation will land in lower brackets and are relatively less when they file. Now, consumer prices rose 8% in September from the year earlier, with grocery prices spiking 13%. The IRS said about 60 tax provisions will be updated to counter those rising costs, including standard deductions for single married filers. The standard deduction for married couples will increase to $27,000, up from $1,800 from the previous year. And for single filers, it will be $13,000, up $900. According to the IRS, these increases mark an acceleration from the previous year's standard and cost of living deduction hike. Marginal tax rates are also being adjusted for inflation, everybody, with the lowest tax rate of 10%, now applying to single filers making $11,000 or less per year. So, the top tax rate will remain unchanged at 37%, the highest rate that has been applied to filers making $500,000 or couples earning $650,000.
First of all, that I wanted to say something about your Senator, Ed Markey. I served with Ed in the Senate for 4 years, the 4 years I was there, and he is always fighting for Massachusetts, always. I've been in those rooms, those small rooms when we would have, well, this is when we were in the minority, and we would meet for lunch, the Democratic caucus in the LBJ room, and it was just the senators, no press, nobody else was there, and Ed in his great accent, and he has a bellowing voice, would stand in the middle of the lunch, everybody put down their forks and knives, here he comes, and And he'd always talk about the working people of this state and the importance of fighting for them. It's good to be with you, Ed. Thank you. And he worked for 13 years on so much that is the foundation of us convening today. So
Eligible citizens will receive $500 universal basic income payments for a year via direct deposit or through a prepaid debit card. The state of Maine has sent out more than 450,000 relief payments to date, with thousands of more set to hit mailboxes in the coming weeks. The $850 checks are approved early this year by the bipartisan majority in the legislature as part of the budget signed by Governor Mills. Will go to nearly 1 million Mainers. The state is processing about 200,000 checks a week, and most should receive the checks by the end of July. The $1.2 billion state budget approved in April set aside more than half the total amount to be sent back to Mainers. During recent calls for a suspension of the state gas tax, which Mills opposes, she has pointed to the state relief checks as a way for Mainers to cover high gas and grocery costs. Delaware officials have also proposed $300 stimulus checks to help them offset the impact of inflation. The Delaware stimulus checks will go to residents who filed a 2022 tax return. The lawmakers in the state, House, and Senate said they have reached a consensus on a direct payment plan, and lawmakers will come up with the legislation, and the authorities would use the state's $1 billion surplus to send a Delaware stimulus check. The proposal is expected to be fast-tracked as it enjoys the support from both the Republicans and the Democrats. Bernie Sanders is now urging every one of his Democratic friends to support a brand new stimulus package. This bill would include expand monthly benefits for millions of people. $250 one-time relief checks would also be deposited. And on the Senate floor this week, Bernie Sanders had harsh words for fellow members of Congress who have been crafting a bill to give major microchip companies a $52 billion in funding, while ignoring pressing issues that are faced by the middle and lower class in the United States. Sanders told his colleagues, at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, the American people are sick and tired of unprecedented level of corporate greed that we are seeing right now. Sanders pointed out that everyday Americans are facing soaring inflation and the worst income inequality in 100 years. Sanders told reporters that instead of focusing on things like renewing the expanded child tax credit, passing Medicare for all, the Senate is focused on corporate handouts. Sanders went on to criticize the conservatives like Manchin, who have pointed directly towards the deficit when it comes to helping the American.
Impacting her constituents. I yield such time as she may consume to young Kim.
Thank you to my friend and colleague French Hill for yielding. Families, workers, and small businesses are hurting from the highest inflation in over 40 years, and in Southern California, where I'm from, everything is more expensive. Inflation doesn't discriminate. It impacts every American and hurts small businesses and workers with less income the most.